Question of the day is, what is the value of winning an Olympic golf gold medal? Is it the same as a major championship? Is it the same as like a regular tour win? Perhaps that's Live Golf or the PGA Tour. Is it in between those two? In between sort of like a major and a regular win, somewhere in there? Or is it just meaningless? Do we think that golf is new and fresh in the Olympics? Sort of. I mean, it was in the 1900s a couple times, but it's basically new. And it just doesn't have any value yet. And so I put meaningless as an option. Now,
And
right
what do you-
now,
what do you
it
hear?
is polling at 57% are saying it's in between. 53% just changed a little bit. In between a tour win and a major. So it is of value. The people are saying it's not a major championship, but it is more important than winning a tour event. So they say. That's the word.
Interesting. All right. I'm one of those that believes that it is of an equivalency of winning a major. It's that important. You've got the players that are competing, it's stroke play, and the players who are competing in the Olympics are the best players in the world. They're designated by their respective countries. Now, maybe someone could argue back to me and say, wait a minute, the United States can only send 4 people because of the way that you have to be inside the top 15 in order to do that. Everybody else is too. And so there's not enough depth. Here's a look at it, in fact. There's not enough depth, they could say. But if you look at the names, there's going to be some that you don't know. There's going to be a lot there that are winners around the world, good competitors. But it's not just that. It's also the fact that these are the Olympic Games. You talked about the fact that, golf was in the Olympics in 1900. It was in the Olympics in 1904, came back in 2016. Le Golf National is the location this year. In fact, in 2028, it's at Riviera, which will be interesting. Because it is the Olympic Games, I think that carries extra weight. I think it's more along the lines of what John Rahm was just saying in that sound that we played, where he said we can't yet in our time have a full appreciation for what this means, but it means a lot. It means a great deal. So I don't know. To me, it's huge. I think it's very, very important, and it's an important part of any player's resume. That's why when Xander broke through this year, now in retrospect, a major way, I think he was already showing us his class and his potential because he had won the gold medal the last time. It comes down to, for example, if somebody asks a question, John Rahm wins individually in Live. What does that mean? What's the significance of it? Players competing in the Olympic Games, medaling in the Olympic Games, or winning a gold medal in the Olympic Games. What's the significance? What's the meaning of it? Well, to me, all of these things ultimately come down to, we like to judge the importance of anything against our own perspective, but I think the perspective to me that matters the most is the player's perspective. Does it make a difference to them? So over the years, for example, I had heard people who would scoff at the FedEx Cup playoffs. But in my early days of broadcasting, one of my assignments was I was sent out to the parking lot to talk to the players that were slamming the trunk that were going home. And I could see the disappointment. I could see how upset they were that they didn't make it to the next week. They didn't make it forward. So that's where I'm getting at. If it's important to them, it's important to me. And what we've seen with the Olympics is that even players initially, for example, like a Rory McIlroy, who kind of the first year were kind of like, meh, all of a sudden said he's never fought so hard to finish in third place. And the joy that you see from, again, you can go Nelly Corda, you can go Xander Schauffele last time, biting the gold medal and the pride and joy that came with that victory. Yeah, it's representing your country, and I get that, and I respect that because that's a large part of the significance of it. But it's also an individual accomplishment because of the strength of the field that you're up against. And remember that field is not John Rahm is in it. It's not biased against. It's like a major in that regard too, right? In that it's not biased against where you play your golf. The so-called ecosystem that we had heard a couple years ago initially, that would, to me, I suspected from the start, was nothing more than an effort to build up walls. But that doesn't exist either. There's a pathway for players from wherever you play to represent your country and compete. So I am excited about it. I'm, as Dom was telling us in the last segment, it starts at 3 a.m. on Thursday and runs through accordingly, Eastern time, and then the women's it will be the next week, which I'm very much looking forward to. 3 a.m. Eastern time again for the coverage. I'm still a little bit confused in where I can find out where all the other Olympic coverage is, and I don't just want it at Dom said as a re-air at night. I'd like to know when it's happening live so I can make a choice if I'm around and up whatever I can see it. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays itself out.